Okay, so the live stream should be starting up in, let's give it 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's refresh the YouTube page. And we see that it's going on over here. So if you want to take a look at what the YouTube live stream looks at, you can go ahead and go over to here. And what we're going to do is, let's see, we're going to start our session. This is Hacker Frog's After School Python Programming Basics Part 3. So let's take a look at what we learned in the last session. So this workshop is the third intro class to Python programming, and during our last workshop, we learned about a few programming concepts through Python, including the following. So we learned about lists, which are variables with one or more items associated with them. Items in the list can be referenced by a process called list indexing. And we also learned about basic operators. We didn't spend too much time with basic operators, but suffice it to say, you can use Python to do math, which is kind of handy. So in this workshop, we're going to be working on two different topics. The first one is going to be called string formatting, and the second topic is going to be basic string operators. So we actually got a little preview of string formatting in the warm-up there, where we were able to put variable values inside of our strings. So here, let's talk about what string formatting is. So this thing called string formatting lets us use variables in strings, which allows for dynamic print output. So we've got this code over here. It's there's a name variable. It's equal to the shy hat, and daily coffee, which is the number of cups of coffee the shy hat drinks. And we're going to print with the F over here, name drinks daily coffee, cups of coffee a day. And when we run this program, it's going to print out the shy hat drinks 3 cups of coffee a day. So how do we do this? We do this with something called F strings. When formatting in this way, we use F strings, which we use by including the letter F in front of the string we want when we're using the print function. So we see here that the print function has an F in front of it, so that lets us put in the names of variables between these squiggly brackets, and that's going to be counted when it's printed out. So let's try a little bit of this. So we actually just demonstrated this in our practice. I kind of sorry about that. I kind of forgot which lesson we were on. And this is just something from a later lesson. Anyways, so let's say we have we've got a friend variable over here, and our friend can be anybody. Let's say it's Vanessa. Okay, and then here when we do print, we can actually include the name of a variable. So in this case, friend. When we use the F in front of our double quotes or single quotes, and then when we print this, it's going to say the value of friend Vanessa is my friend. So go ahead and give this a try. All we want to do in this exercise is to create a friend, which is equal to a string over here. So the friend can be anybody, it doesn't need to be Vanessa. And then we're going to print F, and then between the brackets, we've got our squiggly brackets, friend, space, is my friend. Okay, so if you're able to do that, let us know in the chat by typing in, I have a friend, smiley face. Once again, when you run this program, it should say the name of the friend is my friend. And if you don't have the link for the online Python website, it is right over here. Alejandro on YouTube chat says, "Hey, hello. First time joining live and was able to do it. Nice to see you, Alejandro, and I hope you can learn some Python today." As usual, we're going to be using the online Python website to write some of our Python code. All right, so if for some reason you're having any problems, please let us know in the chat and we'll try to help you out. Once again, it's going to be print and then parentheses. So with the print, we want to print a string, so we're going to put in these double quotes here, and in front of the double quotes, we're going to put the letter F. So the F in front of the quotes over here lets Python know that we want to use F string formatting, and that's going to let us put in the name of a variable in our string. Okay, so if we do it like this, we're able to include the value of the friend variable into our string here when we print it. Okay? All right, so let's move on. So inside the string, we can insert variables into the string with the names of the variables wrapped in curly brackets. So we need to remember to use the curly brackets when we use these F strings. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay, user LL says, "I have a friend." That's great to see. Great. Okay, so we can also use list objects as part of F strings. So in here, we're going to use list objects inside of our F strings. So let's recreate this over here. So we've got list about frogs, we've got green and jumping. Let's go back. List underscore about underscore frogs. And this is going to be two strings. In the list, it's going to be green, and it's going to be jumping. And we're going to print a little statement. And remember, it's going to be parentheses, and inside the parentheses, we've got our double quotes, and we're going to put the F inside the double quotes. All right, so we're going to type out this sentence. This animal is, and this is the color. This is going to be list about frogs at index 0. So index 0 is the color, green over here, and moves around by list about frogs at index 1. So we have our two. Oh, so for some reason it deleted my quote. All right, so this animal is list about frogs 0, which is green, and moves around by list about frogs 1, jumping. Okay, so when we print this, it's going to replace these two placeholders here with green and jumping. So we run this. This animal is green and moves around by jumping. So everybody, for your exercise, I want you to try doing another list. Let's just say it's called list about animal. And here you can create another animal, and it can be any animal you want. Maybe you want to create a list about bunny rabbits. So in the first spot, we would put what color? Maybe we would put either brown, or maybe we would put white. So, animals. List about animal. So we would do white, and I guess this animal also moves around by jumping. Maybe we can call this one hopping. Okay. So we could replace this over here, list about animal, and list about animal. and we would get the same kind of result. Print this. This animal is white and moves around by hopping. I guess this is kind of like a guessing game. All right, so let's move on. So string format exercise. So let's not cover this string format exercise because it actually talks about another method of string formatting that we're not talking about today. But let's do a little quiz over here. So which of the following Python code is a valid method of printing variables in strings? So you've got name equals hackerfrog, and then afterwards we want to include this in our string. So would we do method A, method B, or would we use either method A or B? If you know, type in the chat. Okay, we've got some answers coming in. To anybody who's just coming into today's lesson, we're going to be using the onlinepython.com website, and the link is just over there. Okay, so the answer is you can use either A or B. So here's the thing. You can actually do this method over here to include the names of variables inside your strings. It's not very elegant. If we go over to our online Python, and maybe we've got a name, it's hackerfrogs, and we want to print hello, and then plus, and then actually we need to include the space over here, and then name, and then plus, and then the exclamation point over here. We could do exactly this, and then when we print, it's going to go hello hackerfrogs like this. But using the F string is a bit more clean as far as formatting is concerned. So we would do hello name like this. This when you're doing some dynamic string output, this is a lot nicer looking than this one over here. But they both do the same thing. So if we were to run this, it's going to print the same thing twice. Okay. So let's talk about basic string operations. So when we talk about operations, we're talking about doing something to the string. So strings in Python are considered an object class, and classes in Python have special operations called methods that can be applied to those class objects. So just know that every time you've got a string in Python, there are certain operations that you can use there are certain operations you can use to modify the strings. Okay, so somebody was asking for the link in the chat, so I'll just provide it one more time. Okay. So these class objects have special operations called methods. So strings have their own methods, integers have their own methods, and floats have their own methods. Every type of object in Python has its own kind of methods that can be done on it. So use of methods in Python code can be identified by the name of the object. So if we've got a variable called city, it would be the name of the object, and then a dot, and then the name of the method, and then parentheses, and any arguments that the method requires inside of these parentheses. So let's demonstrate a little bit. Let's demonstrate now. Okay, so over at our online Python over here, we can do the name of a city. So what's the name of a city that's really long? Does anybody have the name of a city that's really long? So it has to be, let's see, city equals, hmm. Well, you know what? I can ask ChatGPT for the name of a really long city. What is a city name that is very long? Oh, user LL has a very long city name. Wow, okay. I think we might have been asking the same question. This is a hill in New Zealand. All right, so let's copy this one and let's use it in our code. So this is, I don't know if any of you know how to pronounce this. It's Tamara Waka Tatanga. I don't know how to pronounce this. Actually, maybe ChatGPT knows how to pronounce this. Anyways, that's beside the point. So we've got our city with the really long name. And then we're going to do city.count, and we're going to count the number. This is a method right here called count that we use on strings. And what we can do is we can count the number of whatever letter we're looking for. So let's see how many I's. How many letter I's are in this city name over here? And we're going to print that. So this method we're doing, we're going to wrap the print function around it. So we can just do print and then put parentheses around this whole thing. And this is going to print out the result of the method count for the letter I. So when we run this, we're going to see that there are 6 letter I's in here. Although it seems like, what letter do you think? Well, let's count up the letter A. Maybe there are a lot more letter A's in here. We run that. Whoa, there are 22 letter A's in here. Okay. All right, so that's an example of one string method rather. Okay, so use of functions in Python code can be identified by the name of the function, followed by parentheses, and any arguments the function requires inside the parentheses. So this is another string-specific operation we can do, and this is called the length function. So len stands for length, and this is actually very handy because we can use this to count the number of letters in that city name as well. So another thing we have to understand about functions in Python is that we've been using functions this whole time because the print function is a function, and we've been using it just like any other function. It's the name of the function and then parentheses, and whatever we want to do, whatever information, whatever data we need for the function to work, we put it inside the parentheses here. So let's run the length function. So we can do print, and inside the print, we're going to print the length of city, just like this. So this is going to return a number, which is the number of letters, or the number of characters rather, inside this string. So who's gonna guess? Who can guess how many letters might be in this city name? I'm gonna guess 50, 56. I'm gonna guess 56. If you have a guess, you can type it in chat. In about 10 seconds, we're gonna run this. And okay, so we have a guess at 62. And no fair if you actually run this yourself and get the answer that way. But let's run this function, and the answer is 85. That's surprising. This does not look like 85 letters. Okay, well, I mean, the computer says it's 85, so I guess I'm going to believe the computer. All right. So let's move on. So this is actually this is a very useful function sometimes when we want to count the size of a certain string or a certain list and use that for our program output. So note that in both functions and methods, inclusion of parentheses are required, even if there are no arguments required for the function or method to execute. So when you're running a function or a method, you have to use these parentheses. Otherwise, the Python isn't going to recognize this as a function name or a method name. Okay, so the length function, right? We just talked about this. It's used to count the number of indexes inside the object. So when we're talking about strings, it's going to output the number of indexes in the string. And in the case of lists, it will tell you the length of the list, rather how many objects are in it. So we can demonstrate this really quick. So let's make our fruits. And our fruits, there's going to be, if somebody could give me a suggestion for a fruit name, we'll include it in the fruits list. So we've got grapes, and maybe we've got apples, and dragon fruit. That's rather exotic, okay? Dragon fruit. If we get the length of fruits over here, how many fruits? Well, we know exactly how many fruits are going to be in here. So when length is run on a list, it's going to count the number of objects in the list. But when we run it on a string, it's going to give us the number of characters in the string. So when we run this, we get the number 3. Okay. So the next method we're going to look at is the index method. And the index method is used to locate the first instance of an argument within the object. So the output is the number of characters into the string where the argument appears, counting from 0. So basically, we can use this method to get where inside of an object we can find a certain pattern. So if the pattern we're looking for is the letter A, it's inside pizza, it's going to report the number 4. So 4 is the index number. So remember, we're starting to count from 0, so 4 actually means the 5th number. So the 5th character, rather. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like this. So this can be useful when we do it on lists, so we can see where in the list we can find a certain object. So if we go over to here, and we do fruits.index, and can you tell me if we want to find fruits index apples? So when we get the result from this, is it going to tell us that apples is at index 0, index 1, or index 2? What number is going to appear? Okay, so the number 1 is correct. So if you run this, it's going to tell you that apples appears at index number 1. So that's 0, 1. Okay, great. So let's see. In this case, the output of the method is 4 because we start the count from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we've got the count method over here as well, and the count method is going to return the number of times the argument appears in the object. Didn't we already do this? Yeah, we already did this one. We did the count for the letters A and the letters E or something like that in the really long city name. Okay, so we're going to start talking about something that's a little bit more interesting. You can actually, just as we can index lists to retrieve the item contained at a specific position, we can index strings with each character in the string counting as a separate item. So, like we said before, if we do indexing on strings, it's going to count each one of these letters, or these characters rather, as a separate index. So this is index 0, this is index 1, and this is index 2. So when we print pet at index 0, pet is dog, and index 0 is the letter D. So remember, when indexing in Python, counting starts from 0 instead of 1. So if this seems a bit repetitive, it's just because a lot of people forget this kind of thing. So what's more interesting is the ability to select specific slices of the string. So what we can do is we can select a number of indexes in the string. It's something called index slicing. So here we've isolated the third and fourth letters from the string Python. So we've got pet, it's equal to the string Python. If we print pet at beginning from index 2 and stopping before index 4, we get two letters. We get the third letter and the fourth letter. So the T and the H. So let's try this out over at Online Python. So we've got our really long city name over here, and so if you need to, I don't know. Let me see if I could get this city name to you in an easy way. So I'm gonna copy this, and I'm going to go over to Google. So what I want everybody to do is I want you to put your own, make your own variable name equal to this city name over here. So you probably want to copy from here. Can you copy from here? Oh, you can. Okay, great. Okay. So over at Online Python, I want you to print and city at index, so starting from index 2 and then the colon. The colon is going to tell Python where to stop the index slicing, and let's do index 10. So index 10 is actually the 9th letter because we start counting from 0. And when we print this, we're going to print this portion of the string. So from the U until the A. From the U until the A over here. So give that a try. If you're able to print out this little part over here, wait, the U until this A. Give it a try. If you're able to print out this slice over here, please type in the chat, I sliced it. Smiley face. So remember, when you do your string slicing, you have to provide the name of the string or the name of the variable, and then inside of the square brackets over here, you're going to put the index where you want to start, and then the colon, and then the index where you want to stop. So the index where you want to stop it's a bit confusing because it stops before the 10th index, but that's the way it goes in Python. Okay, so user LL has sliced it. Great to see. All right. So we're going to be doing a bit more with this slicing. It actually comes in handy sometimes. So inside the brackets, we indicate the character to start from, starting from 0, which is, in this case, over here, it's 2, then a colon, and then the character that marks the stopping point, which is not returned. So it stops before the fourth index. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it stops before this O over here, and it starts at 2, 0, 1, 2, and so we get these two characters here. So 2:4 indicates the start from the third character and stop at the fifth character, not including it in the output. So if a second colon is included in the index slicing, The number to the right of it indicates the number of characters to count by when you're doing your slicing. So in this case, we've got the name of a bug, which is centipede, and then we do our string slicing on bug, starting at 0, index 0, ending before index 9, and we're going to count by 2. So the last number over here, if we include 2 colons, is the number of characters we count by. So if we count by 2, we've got the C, and then the N, and then the T, and then the E, and then the E. And that's what's printed out here. So we see in this output, we see that the slice starts from the first character, ends before the 10th character, and skips every second character. So if you find this a little bit confusing, that's fine. With time, you should be able to get used to it. And the last thing we're gonna cover as far as string slicing is concerned is using negative index numbers. If a negative index number is used, the index starts counting from the end of the string instead of the beginning. So over here, we've got fruits at the -1 index. So the -1 index is the -0 index is actually the index that is immediately after the end of the string. So it's nothing. But -1 is counting backwards. So we do S over here, the end one. So if we go over to Online Python, we can demonstrate this really quickly. And we're going to do city at the -1 index. And the -1 index, can you tell me what letter it is? So when we give this -1, which is we're counting backwards, which letter will it be in this string? If you guessed that it's going to be the letter U, you are correct. Okay, when we run this, this is the letter U because we are starting from the back because we're using a negative index number. So here we're printing out the string index for grapes at the -1 position, which is the last letter. When indexing, we can include a colon without a number to its left. The first colon will have a default value of 0, the start of the string, and the second colon will have a default value of the number of characters plus 1, which is the end of the string. So if we do this right here, we can print out the entire string backwards because we're doing default for the first colon, which is the start of the string, default for the middle number, which is the end of the string, and we do -1 for how many characters to count by, which means that we're going to count backwards one by one. The whole string is in range due to the inclusion of 2 colons with no numbers to the left and right of them, and we're stepping through the characters in reverse order one by one. So if we wanted to do this to the really long city name, we would go over to Online Python, and they would do print city, ::, -1. So when we print this, it's going to print out in reverse order. So just like this. That's one of these days I'm going to learn how to pronounce this because this seems like a really fun name for a city. Okay, so these two methods right here, we're not gonna go over this too much, but they're these two methods for strings over here that can print in all uppercase and lowercase, and you just have to use the method name upper or lower in this case. So let's just demonstrate really quick. So city dot upper. And of course, because it's a method, we have to include these parentheses. Even if we don't put anything in the parentheses, we still have to include them. So if we were to run this for this city name here, then it all becomes uppercase letters. And these ones are starts with and ends with. So we're gonna zoom by this one, but this method is basically going to tell us whether it's true or false that a certain string starts with a certain string, like a certain pattern, like the, or ends with a certain pattern, in this case frog. Here we've got group name is the Hacker Frogs. We're checking if this group name starts with the, and this comes out as true, and we're checking if it ends with frog, and this is false. So can somebody tell me why this comes out as false? Ends with frog is false. So the group name is over here. We're checking if it ends with frog. Why did it come out as false? Okay, user LL says that we forgot the S at the end. That's right. So it has to, so for something to come out as true or false, it has to be exact. So in this case, it's false because it doesn't end with frog, it ends with frogs. Okay, the split method. So this is actually a useful thing to know inside of Python. And the split method is going to convert a string into a list with the separation between items indicated by the argument given. Usually it's going to be a space or a comma. So in this case, we've got our groceries, which is just a long string of items. We've got eggs and milk and bread and lettuce. If we do the split method on this string and separate by the comma, and then we print out the groceries list here, then we're going to get a list instead of this string over here. Okay, so actually what we're going to do is we're going to do a little exercise where we're going to practice using the split method over here. So this code over here, not this one, but this one. Okay. So everybody, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the code over here. So go ahead and navigate over to the GitHub page. The GitHub page at the very bottom here is going to have this end of session exercise code. This isn't exactly the end of the session, but we're going to be taking a look at this code over here. So just scroll down to the bottom and then click on this button right over here, which is going to copy all the code. So just click on that and then go over to your online Python page. And then paste in the code. So if you have something there already, please highlight it and delete it first, and then paste in the code. So everybody, what we're going to do is we're going to try to understand what exactly is going on with this code over here. So take a second to take a look at the code. And if there's something in this code that you don't quite understand, go ahead and let us know in the chat. Otherwise, in about 30 seconds or so, we're going to start analyzing what's going on in this Python code, okay? In the meantime, I'm going to take a little drink of water. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on in the code. In line 1, full name is going to be user input. So input is going to ask for the user to type in something, and the prompt we're going to give is, what is your full name? So we're expecting two names, so it's going to be your first name and your last name. And then split name is going to take full name but it's going to give the split method on it. And the split method by default is going to split something into a list by using, and it's going to split by the spaces. So we're going to define the last name. So the last name is the last name is going to be the second item, which is index 1 inside the split name list. So this is a list. We're getting the last name here. And then we're going to get the last name's length, which is going to be the length function on the last name. And then finally, we're going to print a couple of things. We're going to print your last name is last name with our F strings over here. And we're going to do, there are last name length letters in your last name. So it's not super complicated. I want you to go ahead and try running this program. So just hit the run button. And it's going to ask, what is your full name? I'm going to give a fake full name. I'm going to be John Doe. Hit enter. And then it says, your last name is Doe. There are 3 letters in your last name. Okay. User D says that it won't finish loading for me. So are you talking about the GitHub page, or are you talking about the online Python page? The code, it won't finish loading. I want you to give the page a refresh. You can do Control R, or you can do F5 on your keyboard, or just hit this button over here. So if you need the link one more time, it is right over here. Oh, you meant the Python website. Okay. So the Python website, go ahead and reload that. Same thing. If for some reason something isn't loading for you, you can go ahead and just reload it. And if you manage to successfully run the program, so once again, at the GitHub page, just click on this button to copy the code. Then go to the online Python, paste in the code there, and then run the program once. So it's going to ask you for your full name. This time I am Jonathan, I don't know, Pemberton. And then it'll say your last name is Pemberton. There are 9 letters in your last name, or however many letters. If you manage to run the program once successfully, please type in the chat, I ran the code. So one more time. So the reason why we make so many different variables is that each time we modify a variable, we want to rename the variable according to what is happening to it, or what kind of information it includes. So this way we get less confused. It's less confusing if we have to go into the code and start modifying some things. But all right, so let's do a couple of. Okay, user D says it still won't load except for my name. So let's. Except for my. Oh no. When you run this program. When you run the program here, you have to. It's going to say what is your full name, and then you need to type something in because this is user input. So you have to type something in like Samantha Williams. I don't know if this is a real person or not. Probably is. But yeah, you have to type in something and hit enter because this is taking user input. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to finish off the class with a couple of picoctf exercises. If you don't have an account at picoctf, please let us know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that everybody has a picoctf account because we've been using it for the last 10 sessions or so. Or have there been 10 sessions? Maybe 7 sessions. Okay, so over at picoctf, after you've loaded the page, you need to go over to the practice section. So after you are at the practice section, you need to scroll down a little bit, and then you're going to see the web shell button over here. So just click on that. And then you're going to see your web shell load up here. And then what you need to do is you need to pop out the web shell so that the web shell appears in its own browser tab. So there's this button here called Pop Out Web Shell Terminal. Click on it. And then you're going to see the web shell appear in its own browser tab. So this is stuff from other classes. I'm just going to delete this stuff. If you manage to load up your web shell, please type in the chat web shell up. Okay. All right, that's great. So we're gonna solve a couple of exercises, and these exercises are going to help us understand how to run Python inside of our Linux shell over here. So we've got password crack 1 and password crack 2. So password crack 1 we can find over here. So after you've copied the address, go over to picoctf and paste in the address. So this is password crack 1. This challenge description says, can you crack the password to get the flag? Download the password checker here, and you'll need to get the encrypted flag in the same directory too. So there are 2 files that we need to download. So all we need to do to start the challenge is first go over to the first link, right click and select copy link. Then at your web shell, what you can do is you can make a directory for this. So we're going to make a directory called pwcrack1, and then we're going to enter the directory, and then we're going to use wget to download the file. So it's wget and then space, and then paste in the file address, and then hit enter, and that's going to download the file. So we need to get a second file for this challenge, so we need to go back to the challenge page and then highlight the word flag. Then right click, select copy link, and then go over back to the web shell, and you're going to use wget to download the second file. So wget space, right click paste, and then hit enter. Okay, so if you have both files in your directory, then you're ready to start. So does anybody remember what command we use to run Python files inside of Linux? So user LL says nano. Nano is used to edit files, but if we want to run the Python files, so we can identify what files are Python files because they've got the file extension .py over here, or sometimes we like to say .py, this right here. So we use the Python command inside of Linux to run these Python files. So it's going to be Python space and then the name of the file. So the name of the file in this case is level1.py. So go ahead and give this command over here, Python space level1, and then hit enter. So it's going to ask us for the correct password for the flag. So we don't know the correct password. So we're just going to type in test, and it's going to say that password is incorrect. Does anybody know what we could do to try to figure out what the password is? So there's two commands we could use to get information about the script to find out what the password is. So it was actually just mentioned a little while ago. So the answer is we could use the cat command to read the Python file. But another thing we could do is we could use the nano text editor to look at the file contents. So we can do nano space level1.py and then hit enter. And we're going to see that so the nano text editor is actually going to do some highlighting for us. It's going to color certain parts of the code in different colors, which makes it easier for us to see what's going on in the code. And we can see here that there's this function going on in here. So we're going to learn about how to create our own functions later in the course, but I think it should be easy to figure out what's going on inside this function. So this is a function called level1 password check. User password, this variable is going to be the input. Please enter correct password for the flag. On the next line, it's going to do a comparison for PW password against this right over here. So what do you think the password is? If your answer is 16N1D, that is correct. Okay, so we've managed to figure out what the password is because we looked at the code to see what it was checking for. So we can get out of here with the Control X keyboard shortcut to get out. So Control X is going to let us exit, and then we can run this program again. So it's going to be Python space level1.py. It's going to ask us the correct password for the flag. We remember that it's 691D, 691D, and then hit enter. And that is correct. It says, welcome back, your flag user, and we get the flag over here. We see, from YouTube chat, Some Flavor says, hello, Some Flavor. Nice to see you. We're just finishing up a Python class over here, and we're going to be doing a little bit of free hacking in just a little bit. But yeah, so let's finish off the exercise over here. We just need to highlight the flag, and then copy it, then go over to the challenge page. On the challenge page, we can paste in the flag, and then click on Submit Flag, and then we're finished. Okay, so everybody, if you managed to successfully complete that challenge, password crack 1, please type in the chat, I cracked it. Smiley face. All right, great. So let's take a look. So before we finish the class, let's do a little summary of what we learned today. Oh, no, we've got a little quiz. All right, so what is the output if we use the following code? So we're going to print hacker frogs, and this string over here, we're going to do 6, -1. So we're going to start at 6, and we're going to go -1. Some Flavor from YouTube says, do you have a schedule for your live streams? I always seem to miss out your videos. I'd like to make sure I'm here on time. Yeah, we've got a Reddit page, and on the Reddit page, we've got our schedule on there. I'll grab the link in, let me grab the link for you now. So it's going to be reddit.com/r/hackerfrogs, and it's right here. So this here is going to print out this string slice frog. So we start at index number 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's going to stop at -1. Remember, -1 is the last one, so it's going to print out this portion right here. User D, I see your answer, and I appreciate your answer. Okay, so let's do our review. We learned about string formatting, and string formatting is a way for us to include variable values in strings by using f strings. So if we use the f string, we can include the names of variables inside the string, and it makes it so that we can put some dynamic output in our strings. So we also learned about some basic string operations. Strings in Python have a number of different functions and methods that can be used for obtaining specific details about the strings or specific output. And we can also output slices of strings through string indexing, or what is called string slicing. All right, so what's next? In the next Hacker Frogs After School Programming Workshop, we're going to continue learning Python with the learnpython.org website. We're going to be covering, actually, in the next workshop, we're going to be covering conditions. The curriculum has changed it a little bit, but we're going to be learning about if statements in the next class, and if statements are what lets programs decide what they're going to do when they come to a certain point in the program execution. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish off the class in Zoom. So for everybody in the live stream, we're going to be back in just a couple of minutes, but I need to finish off the class for the Zoom students. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes, but in the meantime, sit tight.